This lecture we are going to talk about breakpoints. First, let's understand what breakpoint is and how we are going to use it. The breakpoint does whatever it sounds like. It breaks. It's a breakpoint within our code. So when we put a breakpoint and when we run our application, our compiler, when it runs through our code and sees a breakpoint, it's going to stop there. So the breakpoints are used in order to help us to debug our code, to stop at some point and see what's going on, to help us to find our problematic areas. So if you want to add a breakpoint, maybe you have done already by mistake at some point, you just come to this black area next to the numbering of your lines, and if you tap, it will add this blue arrow-like mark. You can add as many times as you want. It will put as many breakpoints as you want. If you want to remove a breakpoint, you just click on it and drag it to left or drag it to right. This way you are deleting the breakpoint. Or you can tap on it and it becomes gray. This way you are disabling the breakpoint, or you can enable by clicking it as well. So let's see how the breakpoints work. For example, I'm going to come to my view.load, say print and say point1. Then I'm going to say print, say point2, and then I'm going to say print point3. So we have three print statements here in our view.load function, and remember, view.load is called as soon as our view is loaded inside our simulator or the device. So if I run my code now, it's going to print the point1 and then I have a breakpoint. So it's not going to print the point2 because my breakpoint is there. You also may notice that my breakpoint automatically jumped to this line, and the reason is because anyway I had nothing between these lines, so the breakpoint moved to the next available line. So once our breakpoint stops, you are going to see this green line which shows the breakpoint, and then on the left panel, if you don't have it open, you can use these buttons here to open and close one of them. You will see that we have some kind of text here going on with some keywords and some values there. So everything is inside our self, and the self is our current view. You can see the name of our view, which is typecalculator.viewController. Typecalculator is my application name, and viewController is the name of this viewController. So it's just viewController. And then this is the memory location what our viewController is using. So if I drop down my self here, which is our viewController, you will see that we have different properties as well. The first is UI kit, which is running, so we have our user interface. Remember, we have text field, two text field, one label and one button. So here you can see our tips text field, our employees text field, and it tells us what UI text field. Both of them are optional and their memory location. And you can open them up and see the rest of the values of this text field. We are not going to get into this. This is useful area for you to understand what's going on when we are going to speak about debugging our code. I just want to show you that when we are using a breakpoint, the information is available here. Then on top, you see this narrow panel with some buttons. The first one shows and hides our area. Then we have another blue arrow here, which looks like our breakpoints. What this does is enables and disables all the breakpoints inside your project. So if you had 10 of them, it would enable and disable all of them at once. The next is our play button. What play button does is it just plays the rest of the code. So imagine the breakpoint is here. It passes our breakpoint and start playing the rest of the code until it hits another breakpoint. If there are no breakpoints, it's going to just run our application straightforward. Then we have three arrow-like buttons. What these do is we can break our code at some point and then go line by line through our code and check what values are printed here or what values we have here to see what's going on. So if I click on arrow down now, you will see that my point 2 is printed because we just jumped over this and it printed. If I click one more time, it will jump to our tips amount label, and the reason it jumped there is because we are accessing our tips amount label and setting it text value to empty string. So it jumped there to check if we have a tips amount label, and then if we can set the value to empty string. If I click one more time, it will jump to my print point 3 line. It still doesn't print it here, as you can see, because we haven't executed the line there yet. If I click one more time, it will print my point 3 as well. Then if I just click on the play button, it will go through the rest of my code and show me my user interface. So let's put another breakpoint here. You can, by the way, actually drag it up and down if you want to change the line. So you can put another breakpoint here. If I run my code, so now we stop at point 2, and if I click play, it will go through and it stops on the third point. As you can see, our play button does just that. It stops on our, it runs our code and just stops until it reaches the next break point. Then we have this button which just jumps over until the end of our function. So imagine if your breakpoint is going on here, it will just jump until the end of the current function. And also we have this step out, which means it just comes out of the function. It just doesn't run anything else. And then it will go into these iOS things. This will not give you any information anyway. So you just click on play and it will show you the rest of the application running. The best thing to do with our breakpoints is once you use them, you will either disable them or completely delete them, because keeping a breakpoint at some point, now our application is a single view application, but imagine if you have a multiple views and you have breakpoints somewhere, you are running your code, your application stops, you don't know what's going on, you think there is a bug, but it's just you have a breakpoint somewhere. So it's useful to disable all breakpoints by this button and then try to run again. But what I suggest is when you are using a breakpoint, after you finish with it, just delete it so you don't have this type of issues.